Welcome to this week's episode of the Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned podcast. If you've been following along lately, you know that something has been brewing, and I am so excited to share with you exactly what that is. So, what we have coming up is something we've been working on for almost a year. It is a curated, powerful women's leadership and lifestyle festival, and it's going to be hosted at the Pillar and Post in the stunning Niagara-on-the-Lake. Wake the F Up Festival. Whatever the F is, you need to wake up, whether it's fun, focus, freedom, or the other one. We have designed a transformative experience just for you. This isn't just another leadership conference. It's a celebration. It's a breakthrough. And it's coming together as powerful women ready to align your success with true fulfillment. Imagine connecting with like-minded souls, diving deep into professional growth, and walking away not just inspired, but truly awakened. We're talking about electric energy, real conversations, and actionable insights that you can take back into your business and life. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers, including the powerhouse Olympic champion Elizabeth Manley, the unstoppable swagger coach Leslie M., and so many other absolutely powerhouse women who are ready to pour all of their gifts into you. I'll have all the details linked in the show notes, so make sure you check that out after the episode. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. It is time. It is your time to find another way to actually lean into being ambitious, awakened, and aligned. Now, let's dive into today's conversation and keep that momentum going. Let's go! Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast, The Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned. I have my incredible friend and maybe partner in crime in many ways, Kate Thompson from Rock Thompson Financial Planning with me today. And we're going to pop the cork for this conversation because it's a big one. It's one that every leader, every person, every man, every woman, probably every coach, every consultant, every parent, I think we've covered the human race, struggles with at some point. And we don't really talk about it enough. We don't peel back the layers because we're afraid to. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome. So we're going to pop a cork to that first. We got a lovely rosé that we're going to share together.
Pretty sound.
And
pretty sound.
Let's just start with when I even say imposter syndrome, Kate.
Yes. You see my face? I go, ooh. Yes.
And we actually, I think it's important to say we have no agenda today because we decided together, really with Kate's wisdom, that we should just have a conversation and see where it went and see what came up so that we could be as authentic and real with our own experiences as possible. And so we're off the cuff.
Cheers.
Cheers to off the cuff.
To off the cuff.
Mm-hmm. What comes up for you?
Nice.
Yeah. I will do a little promo on that.
Yeah, do. Please.
Yeah. This is from... I'll show the bottle. This is, we're actually having a non-alcoholic. I think that the cool kids call it Sober Curious.
Oh, okay. We're that.
Yeah, we're the cool kids.
Yeah.
And this is from a beautiful company from British Columbia, Ones Plus. And it's their sparkling rosé. And it's made in a traditional format and then de-alcoholized. So it still gets to have beautiful bubbles.
Yeah, that's very pretty.
And we can have that experience together because Kate and I are practicing right now being sober curious for today.
For today. Good one.
Kate's been longer. So have I. These are the jokes. See, you can still
Uh,
you can be sober curious and still be funny.
yes.
Yes.
Amusing.
Amusing.
Okay. Imposter syndrome.
I think we're avoiding the
Yeah,
conversation
We're definitely
at this point.
Yeah. Well, we did at least exchange, like, this is going to be the theme of our conversation. And so when I was preparing for today, it's like trying to think about having trouble with the word, thinking about situations or times where I might have felt that way or had conversations with people. And I thought I wanted to share. My initial answer was, well, I've never experienced it.
Of course.
And then I thought, where did that come from?
And how many people have actually tried to hide behind
full
that
denial.
mask? Just deny to self even.
Yes.
Wow, where did that come from?
Right? Because then, of course, I'm laughing at myself. But genuinely, it took me a little bit of time to even allow myself to go a little bit deeper than that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And how were you able to go a little bit deeper?
With much discomfort.
What do you think makes us so uncomfortable about this conversation to begin with? Why do we have to mask that?
I think we just put, well, for me, it's expectations. I put such high expectations on myself. And then I want to present well to other people. It's hard being human and admitting it. And now there's the beautiful moments when you do, like you and I have had so many human moments, but it takes some practice. It takes feeling safe. It takes time to build that with people, and obviously mutual permission, like over and over again. Like I've struggled that way even with my husband. Like it's taken years to not be thinking I need to be the perfect wife. Right? It's just, we put labels and expectations on everything.
We have so many paradigms, which through this course I'm studying right now, they shared that from birth till 8, we're only learning through the lens of other people's perspectives. And once we turn 8, we start having some of our own thoughts or through our own lens. So really, by the time we're 8, we're developed in the stories and paradigms and perspectives and beliefs of what we think are true and real. Then we maybe start to get a little bit curious, depending on the environments we've been raised in. And then for you and I, we went into male-dominated industries. And so, we were, and we grew up in the patriarchal society, and that isn't coming from a judgment. That's just a reality.
That's a perspective. Yeah.
So now you start to merge societal norms and paradigms, and where you grew up, and economic status and business status and family conditions and all these different things. And we've just been taught, I think, to layer on becoming who we think everyone else wants us to become, to the point where I'm not sure we actually know who we really are.
Yeah.
And I think that construct of, well, be who you are, be an authentic leader, show up as your real selves. Like, well, who is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Or who do you want me to be?
Who do you want me to be?
Yeah. And how should I show up in this situation?
Right. And who am I supposed to be in this role I play? Whether that's spouse, friend, leader, business owner.
Everything.
Well, I think I'm supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is I see. I think I always just thought I was supposed to be Oprah, and she always looked like she had it together.
Right. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like show up in that way.
Yeah.
Because we typically, I think the experiences we have are really from that fame or at the top of their game, or right. We're looking to those people for us to mirror, but maybe we're nothing like them.
Risky, huh?
Yeah, it's risky. Do you remember your first sort of experience of feeling, let's just go to business, feeling uncomfortable in your own skin, and so making sure you showed up a certain way?
I would say like for the first, I don't know first years that I was in the financial services business. Definitely felt that way over and over again. Especially when I first started, because it was a 100% sales role, and you're supposed to sell some stuff, and you're usually it was a multi-level marketing that I started in the first round, where you're like selling some stuff to some people that know you, right? Like, pretty sure you don't know what you're talking about. And yeah, just having to take lots of risks and a lot of discomfort. And so I over compensated by, well, first of all, like stressing to no end. So that created a lot of stomach aches and upset, right? And then being very hard on myself as far as like what the outcome should be, or over preparing and like over delivering, and then trying to really exceed, anticipate, jump through hoops as far as expectations. And I think that habit has gone for, that's perpetuated for a long time, but felt, like I started in graphic design, so right, and then moved into financial services. So to me, it was a very strong calling. It seemed very like the right move. But then I spent a lot of years trying to like rationalize that to, even though no one was actually saying I needed to, I felt I needed to rationalize and kind of explain that and prove myself.
That's a great example of where imposter syndrome shows up, right? It's, well, do I really belong here?
Yeah.
I have to prove I belong here. So then we create adaptive behaviors to belong.
Yeah.
And then that's not us.
Yeah.
So of course we have imposter syndrome. Yeah. I think that what's interesting to me, and I'll ask you this question, what's your perception of how many other people struggle with imposter syndrome? Or maybe it's different today.
Sure.
Through the years, what's your perspective been?
Oh, I thought everyone else had all their stuff sorted out. It was just me. For sure. I mean, I think we joke like now we're in our 50s, we know better, right? But that's only after decades and decades of sweating.
That's so true.
Right? Like, I wish I could go back and tell my like 25-year-old self, like, you're fine, you got this. And yes, there's a learning curve, and no one expects you to have it all figured out right now, because how can you? And just do your best, and that's okay. Right? But and I think we still struggle with that in a sense, in the way that things are presented to us now, right? Like, things are online, and you can polish, and you can print, and right, you can edit. So we can still fall into that trap of I guess it's comparing.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big part of it, is that we look at other people. That's where the imposter syndrome comes from. We look external instead of internal. And just a knowingness that we are whole, we are enough, we belong just as we are, wherever we are. And if we could just start showing up that way. Can you imagine nice the power?
Like, not, you don't get to say, oh, this is who I am, and I get to be a jerk, right? But like I said, we're talking with the right intentions, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Something popped in my head there, but I'm definitely not going to get into politics on this podcast.
Please don't.
We're not going there.
Not needed. No. Enough of it already.
There really is enough of that, for sure. I think of moments where what would have been possible if I hadn't spent so much time in that particular moment thinking about the fact that I didn't belong, or I wasn't enough, and what was I supposed to say? And, sitting in that environment, let's call it a boardroom, and I'm thinking about that in a meeting. What if I would have just been able to be, and then allow my voice to be heard from my own perspectives? I wonder what that would have looked like.
What would have made that possible, do you think?
Yeah, what would have made that possible? Well, I think we are responsible for creating safer environments that create those situations too. So maybe what if we now understand, if we could accept, if we could start talking openly, because you hear this all the time. There's been many books written on this. So many people are talking about it. Gabrielle Bernstein has shared her story. We've heard this from top CEOs, and yet we're still not really shifting behaviors that create much openness in environments to think, oh, there's a young leader over there. Maybe I should just ask them a question and like really be curious about who they are and share that we want openness and share, in some of the environments. I think right now, I am blown away by young people in some ways. And some of those ways are their creativity. They definitely have stronger voices than we would have had at those ages. And so I want to know what they have to offer. I want to know what they think on something, because they've also been educated differently than us they've grown up in a really unique environment that we're kind of just trying to catch up to every day. Wait a second. How do I use this technology again? What's AI? Oh, right. I often will be calling my kids and saying, can you help me figure this thing out?
Yeah.
That never happened in our generation. We were always looking to our elders for our learnings.
Right.
And so, that's true. That's one place where I think if people and organizations and structures can say, we don't always have to look at it that way.
Yeah.
I think that's one way.
I love the fact that like you're using your kids as an example, just the fact that you reach back, right? And just even by doing that, then you're also showing them that they have something worth sharing. So maybe for some of us, we're not in a boardroom, right? Or we don't have that opportunity to like sort of single someone out and give them the chance to speak. But even if we're doing it within our families or within our, our familial groups, right? I think about that even when I was young. Like if one of my aunts or uncles had asked me about something and stopped and taking an interest in it, like that was very impactful. It was a moment, but it was very impactful. So I like that idea of like just being intentional and pausing and listening, letting someone have their moment, right?
I also wonder too, how intentionality again is such a new buzzword about how we operate that didn't exist 10 years ago. And now it does. It's beautiful that we understand we have choice. We have power. And I use that word in the way like it's intended, a beautiful, energetic power to show up as we are. And I think I wonder about finding the place, your voice feels safe first.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is a place where if you can align your gifts that feel natural to you and start to notice when you feel lit up, when you feel, ooh, this feels right. It feels like I'm wearing my coat. It feels like I'm using my gifts. Capture those moments and look for ways to amplify those. Look for environments where there's more of that,
right,
than when you feel like you've put somebody else's coat on.
Yeah.
And that, I think the more we notice that, then we can be intentional about going to those places, using those gifts. We've done some work even with your team in the past of uncovering your sacred gifts and understanding more about your own inherent behavior styles. And the more we know ourselves, and then we see when we're in those places, and that doesn't feel like imposter syndrome. It's the opposite. It feels real and natural and juicy and vibrant, right? Like it's, ooh.
Yeah.
Then how do we find those places intentionally?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because as you were saying that, like some of us have those opportunities, right? Like we may have opportunities to have those kinds of conversations or find those situations. It also made me think about and knowing when you're not in that.
Yes.
Right. So And can you do anything about it? In like, maybe we can't change our job situation right now, but maybe we can speak in a different way, or maybe we can at least be more authentically ourselves. Or like not intentionally taking on someone else's persona, right?
Yeah.
Like just things like that, where it's like, maybe we can't make a big dramatic jump right away, but we can at least even reflecting and pausing. And I do that for myself, where I'm like, you catch yourself into something and you're like, I didn't really like how I handled that, or I didn't really like how that made me feel. How could I have done that differently? Could I? And sometimes you can't. Or like, so it's not about beating yourself up. I don't mean it from that perspective, but just from being able to, just to reflect. Yeah. But that takes some conscious connection.
Intentionality again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Of catching where you're drained and don't feel like you, or when you are. And I agree, you can't change that necessarily overnight. Just recognizing it, just giving yourself permission to actually own your own truth.
Yeah.
Just get to know yourself more. I was wondering, as we were talking about when we did the sacred gifts, for you, as we're talking about imposter syndrome, is there alignment? We haven't talked about this, so it's okay if no's the answer. Also, it's okay.
Don't know what you're going to ask.
I am not putting words in your mouth.
Yeah.
But I am curious, was there some alignment of stepping into, because I really do see that we don't feel on purpose when we don't see and understand our own gifts. And we don't see and understand our own gifts so often.
Yeah.
We just don't, because they're so natural and inherent to us.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh yeah. That's just what I do. No, that's a gift.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's some alignment between knowing our gifts and this imposter syndrome thing.
Yeah, it's actually a great question. And I think it would be amazing if like you can even resource where some of that material might be, like so that people can find that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. So it was, again, we started with just within our team to understand kind of where we might be similar or different, so that we could understand how to lift each other up, or to understand where there might be areas where you're like, you don't get it. Like just because you're so different. So there's always those like typical kind of like the Myers-Briggs and those personality profiles and that kind of thing. We found those all very helpful. But the sacred gifts specifically, just exactly what you alluded to, was this understanding that there is a way in which we are inherent, like in who we actually are, like the things that like to me, when I found out that like Matt, my husband, and we shared certain gifts, and I was like, oh, well, that like it just made so much more sense than why we would be like, if we get an idea on certain things where we're just like, let's do that. Right. Because, well, we're both service oriented, right? So we were just like, someone asks us to do something, we're invariably going to say, in the past, we try and be much more mindful of that now. We absolutely burned ourselves out. But that was the negative side of it, right? Is that because it was so natural for both of us, we really pushed each other to that. But it was also then, oh, well, not everyone actually has that service gift. So in my more resentful moments, I'd be like, well, what's wrong with that person? Like we're like giving, and there's like nothing, just nothing. But they could be, they're practicing their gifts in another way, right? So it was just a beautiful way to understand how I'm unique. And then how I'm like other people too, right? So just like enhanced that. So then it made more sense to me why certain things came easy and why other things were hard. And it was because it's positive. It allowed me then to say, well, these are the areas that I can sing in, right? Like I can just be myself so authentically, so fully, so with such ease. And I'm not those other things. So I don't have to spend all my time trying to be those other things. I loved that. Like, it was very
Yeah.
empowering.
And then there's that imposter part of it. Because then if you don't have to spend time trying to be something you're not, then you're not going to get stuck in imposter.
Yeah.
And also, I think back to the comparison. So when somebody else then has those sacred gifts,
Yeah.
instead of spiraling into, well, now I don't have what they have. It's more, isn't that beautiful that they have that and I have this?
Yeah.
And now we can start talking about creating harmony in situations instead of everybody stuck in imposter syndrome.
Because there's no lack.
There's no lack.
We're just unique.
Yeah. I love that. The service one makes me laugh because the definition of the gift, actually in sharing a story of the gift of service, it says there's those people that walk into a room and they look around and they see what needs done. They just get it. Okay. Start moving tables, fixing chairs, doing this, doing that. That person needs some love. I'm going to go over and give them a little attention. And then others don't see any of that. They can walk into a room and see nothing of need. And so it's interesting where you say, if you're not careful also, that can turn into like, how do they not see that those tables and chairs over there need moved?
It's so obvious.
And then I think I'm reminded of just, and this actually, I think is full in alignment with imposter syndrome, but I'm reminded of, we used to have this party called Tibbs Eve, and it was on the 23rd of December, because that's when the people in the East Coast had this little celebration before they had to hook up with friends and family at Christmas, and you would just celebrate with your friends. And so we would always have this Tibbs Eve celebration, and Kate and Matt, when we first met them, came to the Tibbs Eve celebration, and Matt walked in the house, literally grabbed the oven mitts off my hand and said, "Tell me what you need and I'll do it." And he started taking the food out of the oven, serving the people in the basement at the bar, helping people get drinks, bringing the dirty dishes up. And he has the gift of hospitality.
Yes.
And so it was just so cool to watch. And I was so grateful. It was just so, I'm coming, I'm helping, I'm doing.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
And I loved that was an environment where he could show that gift.
Yeah.
Versus coming in and potentially feeling like I don't get to use my gifts, so maybe I don't belong, so maybe I feel like an imposter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting interweaving.
Yeah. It can show up in different ways, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even you in the receiving it, right? Like there's the other side of that, right? Where someone can be very genuinely trying to, in that sense, use their gift of hospitality or trying to support you. And if you're too stuck in your, I know I have to like match that, or I have to be better than that, or I can't receive that because I'm not good enough, or I have to earn that, or whatever crap we tell ourselves.
Or it's my house, so what do I look like? Now I look like an imposter.
Right.
If my friend comes in and starts doing this stuff, I was quite happy
You'd worked that one out already.
I'd worked that one out.
No problem.
I generously received. That's not always true, though.
No,
so,
not in your home environment. It's different.
Yes.
But I think if it was a work environment, that might have been different.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share an imposter syndrome story of your own?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you just brought up receiving because for me, I love giving. I love giving.
You're very generous.
And I love being generous, and it feels so good for me. And yet recently I'm starting to kind of unpack the onion on this one. And if not really being mindful, I recognize that I block receiving because it makes me feel safer. And I think safe feels like I'm more real. But that's not true. So I think the imposterness is actually if I can't receive. If I'm always giving, am I feeding my own soul, or am I being in a harmonious
Ooh.
alignment in a relationship,
Right.
which means we both can take off our imposter masks and be real and be vulnerable. And I was listening to Dr. Gabor this past week, and he defined vulnerability as the openness to being wounded.
Oh, yes.
I think we talked about this on Instagram Live.
Yeah. Yes.
And I can't stop thinking about that in alignment with imposter syndrome, ability to receive, because I think then I'm blocking someone else's ability to be fully themselves. So what am I creating in the other person by not receiving? And then I'm blocking my own ability to have true alignment and acceptance. And so really, am I being my truest authentic self? So I'm sharing the story kind of into this. I'm unwrapping it right now.
Right.
I don't have the full solution
Yeah.
or I don't have the fully arrived version of it for myself. It's just really come into my awareness lately.
I think that's the key, is that it's come up. So it's something that you're going to have to be mindful of going forward, because we can get into compulsion, right? Where it's, and I've learned this over the years, that sometimes when you create a habit, then you're like trying to, it's almost like outdo yourself, like outdo the expectations, or like bigger and better. And I mean, there's a time and place for that. Like maybe there is something that's very special and you're like, we're going to create a wow experience.
Yes.
Are you just doing it out of habit? Right. So,
well, and where was it formed? So I think is this formed from a story of I don't belong, I don't fit in, I don't feel like I'm enough, that imposter syndrome. So I think the adaptive behavior to I'm not feeling like I'm enough, or I belong, or I'm worthy, can easily be, let me be an overgiver.
Yeah.
Let me be a people pleaser.
Right.
Let me adapt in that way, because then I feel safe.
Isn't that a very female thing to do?
Yeah. It's a very female thing to do.
Most of us are more nurturing as well, right? Like more of that inclination. So you can really take that into overdrive. Yeah.
Overdrive, over expectations, overworking, overgiving.
Yeah.
I think they all fit in the same bucket.
Yeah.
I will do more. I will give more. I will show up with more, because maybe then I will feel like I'm enough.
Right. Or they'll like me. Or
right.
I'll get the acceptance, or I'll feel the sense of belonging. Or it's turned into therapy.
And now being sober curious is questionable.
Like, woo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I think this is just another reminder for everyone. The reason that we knew we wanted to have this conversation and we just decided to go off the cuff is because we have a sacred friendship that allows that to happen.
Yeah.
And the importance as women, especially, that we want to create a sacred circle. And there's no definition of that except that it creates safety and openness and the ability to uncover the layers of our imposter syndrome, to step into, really trying to hear our own voice, learn who we are, learn who you, like, I want to know you at your core, who you really are and what you really want to say. I'm so passionate about wanting to create that for you. And I feel the same.
Yeah.
And then we want to do that for other people because we've experienced the power of that.
That is it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. This was beautiful. Any final thoughts on imposter syndrome?
Final thoughts. Okay. So we all do it. We all feel it. We're recovering. But we'll probably slip back. And I'm here for you.
Cheers to that. Love you.
Love you too.
See you soon, friends.
Bye for now.